Good morning, and welcome to the Coaches Cafe. Hopefully, you enjoyed the morning show. You enjoyed the little video I put together for you all. So, thank you for pulling up on this Figured Out Friday. For those of you who are new to the coach, welcome to the Coaches Cafe. I am your host, Coach Regina, and who am a licensed certified social worker who speaks diligently to behavior health and wellness. And here's why: it is a total package. You can't have one or the other. You can't work out and not do all the lifestyle things. So, as a lifestyle behavior health coach, that's what we dig into. We dig into all the things. So, welcome on this Figured Out Friday. And so, if you're tired of carrying everything while you quietly run on empty, you're definitely in the right space. We challenge all this grind culture, even with working out, right? You don't have to flip tires to be well, right? So I'm going to continue to encourage you
to do the thing, the one thing, not the 10 things, but the one thing. So glad you're here on this Figured Out Friday. As I stated, I am Coach Regina with Doing Life Well Coaching and Consulting, your lifestyle behavior health strategist, helping you to get your whole lifestyle together, not just your diet and your exercise, but your entire lifestyle. We have been leaning into the rest framework for the last several weeks. We started with the R, E, and S. Today we're going to close out with the T. But let me just say this. Let me pause and say this. Woosah. Too many of us are not resting well. And I'm not talking about just taking a nap when you are exhausted. So we're going to kind of do a recap, we're going to do a recap this morning of the rest framework. And I want you to understand, I want you to hear it clearly that rest is truly how we move from survival to sustainability. You're hearing a lot of conversation around the sustainability thing. But if you don't have all your parts and pieces in place, you will not be able to sustain the gains that you've made. If you're in the employment space, you will not have a sustainability plan because parallel process, what you do, your team members are going to do. If you do not have a rest practice, your team members will not have a rest practice. So we're going to recap from the rest framework, and I invite you to make sure if you are not following me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, here's your invitation. Here is your invitation to stay connected with the coach. This is just one of many frameworks that I operate with to give you some tangibles. We're not talking pie in the sky. We're not talking name it and claim it. But what we are talking about is very specific, practical things that you can walk away and do when you get off my live. So stay connected with me because I drop content throughout the week that's beneficial to your everyday life. Let's get into this rest framework as we close out this piece. But again, pull up next week. 6 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, because I will have a special guest who will really take you through in a practical way from theory or from conversation to real life application. One who actually embodies this framework, who embodies the work, who embodies the rest principles like bar none. So again, welcome to the Coach's Cafe. Let's do a quick review of the rest framework. And if you've been trekking with me for the last several weeks and you've been a part of this rest conversation, then make sure you drop your favorite emoji to let me know I've been with you, coach. I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. In the rest framework, we started with the R in the rest framework. And what I introduced you to during that conversation was learning how to, if you remember it, drop it in the comments, release the load. Release the load. Here's what I invited you into and to remind you of. True, authentic rest begins with releasing, because you cannot rest while you're still holding on to things. Honey, you know, God never assigned you in the first place, but yet, right, out of obligation, out of our sense of I am that person, we hold on to things far longer than we're supposed to. And if we can be honest on this Figured Out Friday, here's what I figured out. And you have probably figured out too, right? If not, here is your figured out moment on Figured Out Friday. Some of us are not tired because we're doing too much. You're tired because you're carrying too much that isn't yours. I know I'm talking to you because you done told me. You know it's not yours. And so Here are the reflection points that I talked about during that week when we were talking about releasing the load. And you have to go back a few episodes back and catch a few Fridays ago when I talked about releasing the load and get the full scoop. But here's what I want you to think about. I want you to ask yourself, right, as you're considering what you're going to release, because now is the time. Your health cannot wait. Type that in the comments. Now is the time. Your health cannot wait. So here's what I want you to think about. What guilt are you holding on to? Yeah. We hold on to things out of guilt. So that is something you have to play over and really figure out. Second reflection for you. When we're talking about releasing the load, why won't I release the load? Let's ask this as well. What role did you step into without permission? Yeah. Yep. I used to raise my hand too, but I'm now in a role by divine alignment, and I'm operating in my God-given assignment, and I rest. So I'm asking you that second question for you to think about. What role did you step into without permission? Because then you have to think about, what are the steps I'm going to take to exit that role? And then I want you to ask yourself, this is a big one, this third reflection question in terms of how do I release the load? We're going back over the rest framework. Welcome to the Coach's Cafe on this Figured Out Friday. We've been carrying out conversations around the rest framework for the last several weeks. We're closing it out with a T today, but I'm doing a recap. So here's the last question I want you to think about when you're talking about release the load, starting with the aura. When you're talking about releasing the load, when did, and you got to answer this for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, when did productivity become your identity? Yeah, the pause was intentional. When did productivity become your identity? Coach Regina, what are you talking about? Oh, the more you do, the more accolades you have, right? That becomes your identity. So then you refuse to honor a rested neededness. You refuse to step away. You refuse to put things in place because you don't necessarily have to step away. But what you do have to do is have rhythms in place to take care of you. However, all too often, more often than not, we are trying to hit all these indicators, trying to hit all these markers, trying to hit all these goals. I got this vision board. I need to make sure I stay on track. Because if I don't stay on track, then That's what society wants you to lean into. Maybe people around you and your ecosystem want you to lean into. But the value of rest has been highly underestimated. Yeah. And so we often associate our productivity with who we are. And that is so not true. That is a faulty belief. And that's a conversation for another day. But those are three questions I want you to reflect on. What guilt are you holding on to? What role did you step into without permission? And then number three, when did productivity become your identity? As you're thinking about those three, here's the thing. If you can't honestly get into it and answer those things for yourself, you're not going to release the load because you're feeling guilty, because you believe you're supposed to be in that role, because productivity is who I am. That is my identity. But I want to challenge you on that. I want to invite you into a healthy challenge for you to sit down and ask yourself these questions. Because some of your exhaustion is not from what you're doing, but it's from what you refuse to release. And it's time to release it. We've been talking about this for weeks, and I hope you have. So if you have released something in this season, drop released in the comments. And if you're catching a replay, drop released in the comments. That's me. Drop released in the comments. Because here's the thing. Once you release, you create space, but space needs structure. Once you start to release those things that God never assigned you in the first place, you create space to then walk in your God given assignment. But even when you create that space, drop in the comments, space needs structure. And that leads into the E of the rest framework. We talked about establishing rhythms. What does that look like? This is where people often get stuck, right? Like, I don't know what to do, coach. Like, I don't know what to do. We made it real simple, establishing your rhythms. Type in the comments. The E is for establishing rhythms. Get this, for those of you who walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Remember that God even moved in rhythms. He didn't rush. Even creation had order. And I was talking slowly on purpose. God worked, then he rested. I'm leaning in. God worked. Oh, yes, he did. But then he rested. Oh, yes, he did. So I'm going to invite you to work, rest, and repeat. Yeah. So here's the truth. You cannot hope for rest. It's just not going to happen by osmosis. Baby, you're not a butterfly. You're just not going to cocoon and come out that thing. You not. Rest must be scheduled. Be very intentional. I've often invited you to become the CEO of your life, the CEO of the decisions that you make, the CEO of your health. If you know anything about a CEO, they make hard decisions. They're going to separate themselves. Now, I'm not saying establish some of the practices because their practices could be working 80 and 90 hours a week. That's not what I'm condoning. But what I am saying is that when you create and have the CEO mindset, you have a vision about things that's way bigger than the day to day. And so, CEO schedule as the CEO of your health, as the CEO of your life. Rest must be scheduled, not hoped for. That's the truth. It's not just going to happen because, as you all like to say, life be lifing. Absolutely. And you can be resting. You can have harmony. You're not going to be able to balance that thing out. There is no such thing as balance. Y'all got y'all water. I forgot to tell y'all to make sure you pull up with your water. Make sure you're hydrating. That's a part of your rhythm that we're talking about too. But establishing rhythms is not going to happen by osmosis. It is not. Nope. Structure doesn't steal your peace. It actually protects it. So when you establish rhythms, we talked about creating morning rhythms and we talked about creating evening rhythms. Go back and catch that live. And so when you establish rhythms, when you establish a structure, you get used to showing up for you. Oh, yeah. And so then when you create these rhythms, what I have learned, then your consistency over time create your capacity. Your consistency over time creates your capacity. Capacity for what, coach? To do what you're supposed to be doing, not all the other things that you're doing. And so type that in the comments. Apply that to you. Consistency creates capacity. But if you, like y'all be saying, like I was talking to somebody the other day, he was talking about they all over the place. Honey, it's time not to be all over the place. It's time to lock in. But you cannot lock in. You cannot lock in when you're unrested. You cannot. It's just difficult. It's just hard. you know, because you're all over the place. You got your hands in this, you got your hands in that, and you're not resting. You have this guilt syndrome, right? There are some things I want you to reflect on as you before the end of this month, y'all. Like, y'all, listen, your health cannot wait. Your health is on the line. I told y'all that your health is on the line, whether you accept it or not, whether you have this hard conversation or not. If you do not reprioritize the things that really matter, and productivity is not the thing, your well-being is the thing, then you can be more productive. Type that in the comments. Right? And so I don't know what you're committing to. We had several things during the establishing your rhythms, like, are you gonna just start with a morning rhythm? What does that look like? You rise, you hydrate, you meditate, and you move. I didn't say go to the gym. Your movement could just be some light stretching. It could be some deep breathing. You rise, you hydrate, you meditate. Keep your water beside your bed. Your evening routine, very similar. It doesn't have to be 10,000 things or an hour long worth of things. I do encourage you to power down those devices at least an hour before bedtime. Shut it down. So establish your rhythms. That is the E in the rest framework. I am encouraging you to establish rhythms. Now, here's the thing. You got to establish a rhythm that's going to work for you. I give you suggestions, I give you ideas, but as the CEO of your life, you know what's going to work for you. If you're having struggles and if you're challenged, of course, message your girl. We can get on a call and walk through where you are. So now let's talk about the S in the rest framework. Because even with rhythms, some of us are still exhausted. And that's the truth. Even with rhythms, some of us are still exhausted. Why? Because we're still trying to control the outcomes. God ain't called you to control the outcome. He just called you to do your part. So we take the idea of control and we like, oh, I'm just a responsible person. I got to be responsible for all this. No, you just want to be in control. You just want to be on control. You want to be on top of things all the time. And the stuff's so heavy. Like you're so weighed down. Y'all, I got my tea this morning. No honey, no sugar, no agave, just straight up tea because it's cold. But the S, here is what I want you to think about. When we're talking about surrendering control, because when you are trying to operate in a space of always being in control, you always want to control the outcome. That's what you're ultimately trying to do. You're not able to properly rest, recover, and restore because you always got to be in control. So listen, here's something that I want you to ponder that we talked about in terms of, surrendering that control. I want you to understand, and I invite you to this space. I'm going to do an invitation. I want to invite you into this space. When we surrender, that is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of wisdom. A wise person knows when to put things down. An overburdened, taxated person does not. This is your invitation to wisdom. Number 2, this is what I want you to reflect on. It's not that those who, well, if I don't do anything, I'm just not being a person of faith. No, faith isn't that you're not doing anything. Faith says, I'm going to do my part, but I'm going to release the rest. I'm going to release the outcomes to the Lord so you can rest. Baby, I don't know why y'all be up all night. You got up all night. Y'all gonna lay down, take a rest, take a nap, go to sleep that night. Stop staying up all night long worrying. And that might be easy for me to say again. Let's get on the call and talk about it. Number 3, under this surrender your control. God doesn't need your timelines. He needs your trust. So giving up control, when you're trying to stay in control of something, what you're saying is, I got this, Lord. I don't really really need you because I got this. I got all my strategies. I got all my goals. No, I'm not saying don't have things that you put in place, but I invited people at the first of the year to have a rest plan before you develop your strategic plan. Because as you're going along and you're in the grind of it, you're going to forget to rest. You're going to forget to pause and take care of yourself. So I invite you to go ahead on and put that rest plan, intentional rest plan in place, so that as life starts to life, you're not out of control. You're not overwhelmed. You're not burned out. You don't take yourself to this place, because people are in some dark places because they have not taken care of themselves. And it is hard to come up out of that place, especially if you don't have support. If you don't have an ecosystem that understands and values this thing called rest, because people like to grind. I know people who grind. I know people who wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on the grind. But is that well for your well-being? That's the question I want to pose to you. Is it well for your well-being? So, R, release the load. E, establish rhythms. S, surrender control. And now let's talk about this T. That's what we're going to lean into today. Our conversation today is transform through trust. Because rest doesn't start on your calendar. It starts with your belief system. Here's the truth, your nervous system is listening to every thought that you think. That's why your blood pressure is looking like it's looking. That's why you're wondering why you can starve yourself to death and won't lose a pound, because you're stressed out without rest. Your nervous system cannot even relax if your mind is under attack. Type that in the comments. My nervous system can't relax if my mind is under attack. What do you believe? Some of us have these faulty beliefs, these faulty narratives that have been spun over and over, and we rehash them like they the living legacy. So today I want to invite you into this conversation with the T, transform through truth. That is how you learn how to establish this restful place. Transform through truth. And let me show you, y'all. On this journey, everybody around you is not going to be going with you. Understand that. Representing yourself means that you're going to have to be different. You're going to have to set your own bar, and different looks like me showing up, understanding that I'm shifting my beliefs. I'm shifting my beliefs. It is not true that everything going to fall apart if you're not there. Let me tell y'all what I was told one time. When I needed to make a career decision and my leaders at the time didn't want me to leave the organization, I was told, everything just gonna go to hell in the handbasket when you leave. No. You're not gonna guilt me into staying, first of all. And I know that. Here's a freebie on a Friday. When you cultivate intentionally the people around you, when you develop the people around you, when you build out your bench strength, when you build bench capacity, and you really take the time to invest in people, I'm talking about a belief system. You don't have to do it alone. When you do that, you can be at ease because the people around you that you have cultivated, that you have developed, that you have learned to trust, they can step up and do things. That's what you want to do. Transform through truth looks like, I don't have to do this alone. Who told you that? Right? So things will not fall apart if you've taken the proper steps to develop those around you. If you have a sustainability plan, if you have a succession plan. So what are you intentionally doing, investing in those around you to create so that you can transform through truth? This faulty belief that you got to do it all by yourself. There's only a select group. No, cultivate people around you. I want to invite you into this other space. because we've normalized this hustle culture. We oftentimes normalize things that we shouldn't normalize, and that's definitely one of them. Baby, you got to get it out the mud. No, 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 no. And I ain't finna be climbing on no rough side of no mountain either, because God ain't told me that. He said, speak to that thing. So what are you speaking? What beliefs are you holding? You don't have to work 90 hours a week to earn rest. Type that in the comments. I don't have to earn rest. That's a part of my everyday fabric. I want to invite you into that space. I want to invite you into a space that says, I don't have to earn rest. That's not what I have to do. I'm not required to earn rest. Who told you that? Like, you cannot take off. You cannot create rhythms to take care of yourself every day. Don't be so busy for other people that you forget about taking care of yourself. And you will not believe how often I hear that repeatedly. I hear that repeatedly. So I'm inviting you to this space. Rest does not have to be earned. Type that in the comments. It does not have to be earned. Here's another truth. Well, I say truth. Here's another thought that people have. And I want to invite you to shift your beliefs around it. I should be further along by now. I'm 53 years old and blah, 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 blah. I'm 55 years old and blah, 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 blah. So wherever you are right now, you have a decision you get to make. If you don't like where you are, then what are you intentionally doing? First of all, I want you to stop looking out the window at other people, because the comparison is the thief of joy. It will steal everything. Your belief is that they got it going on. But what you don't know is what you don't know. Yeah. Yes. You don't know. While you're comparing your life, you're robbing yourself of joy, and you're constantly repeating a faulty narrative that's not even yours. Who told you at 53 you got to be blah, 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 blah? Oh, I'm supposed to be. So if you're still living and you're under the sound of my voice, you have an opportunity. If you need some structure, organizational structure, leadership structure, lifestyle guidance, let's get on a call. Beyond the weight loss, it's your lifestyle. It is your life. Let's talk about it. Let's pull up and talk about it and establish you a rhythm for your life. And it won't include comparing yourself to other people. Guarantee you that. God did not design you to compare you to other people. So let's stop comparing ourselves to other people's situations. What it looks like, and you don't even know. You don't even know if the folks on file bankruptcy file. You don't even know. You're making assumptions because they pull up on socials and you think that. No, that's a faulty belief that you have, that I supposed to be. No. Who told you that? And if you're telling yourself that, pause, sis. Pause, bruh. What do you want to do going forward? Right? Release. I'm going to shift to the quiet shift. Quiet the noise. Quiet the noise. The cute in the quiet shift is quiet the noise that you're listening to. Sometimes you're in your own head with these faulty beliefs. So what this looks like when we're talking about transforming the way that I live through truth. What is the truth around this whole rest thing? Because you get to choose. You get to choose. So instead of thinking things are going to fall apart, it's going to go to a hell in a handbasket. I'm behind. I should be further along by now. Let me pause and invite you into this. It looks different. It's counterculture. It's counter to some of the stuff you've been telling yourself. So I want to offer you a few thoughts to replace. If I stop, things gonna fall apart. It's not gonna go to hell in a handbasket. Guarantee. Let me tell y'all something. As many accolades that you have in your career, in your community, in your organization, wherever you have accolades, if you walk away today, they're going to figure it out. You don't have to walk away today. All I'm saying is that it will not fall apart when you take a break. It will not fall apart when you prioritize and recognize, you know what, I don't have the capacity. I've been doing this for 5 years. I don't have the capacity any longer. And acknowledge that, verbalize that. That's the truth. The truth is, how do we transform and get people on board? The truth is, we don't have these conversations. So you pulling up on this Friday, thank you for pulling up on this Figured Out Friday as we're closing out this rest framework, transform through truth. Here's the real truth. Rest is a sign of obedience and not indulgence, because you're indulging doing too much. You know God done told you to put that thing down. God told you to put that thing down last year, and you still holding on to it. I don't even know why. I don't even know why. You don't even know why. But God invited you to put that thing down last year. So you're carrying all this extra weight, unnecessary weight that He didn't even assign to you, but you choosing to hold on to it. So in order to transform how you're moving, how you're operating, understand that I've got to stop this indulgence, this quote unquote productivity extra, and do the thing that I've been assigned to do. Here's another thing I want you to think about. I want you to adopt this. I am allowed to pause, because you are. A lot of times I hear people saying, but I don't feel like I'm being productive. May I submit to you that because you pause does not mean you lose your purpose? Taking a sabbatical does not mean you lose your purpose. Sometimes we have to step away and do some deep reflection, or some basic reflection, but do some deep reflection on this thing. Why am I holding on when I know that I was supposed to let go? Question for you. Why am I holding on? So the truth is, you are allowed to pause, and you don't lose your purpose. You will not lose your momentum if you rest. Progress is not erased by resting. You may need to take a sabbatical. I don't know. You may need to take a intentional, unbothered recovery period. You may not want to use the word sabbatical, but you just may want to be intentionally unavailable for a while and let the people know. That's how we transform through truth. The truth is, it's not going to fall apart. The truth is, it's not going to go to hell in a handbasket. Those are beliefs that we tell ourselves, and other people validate that belief, because the more you do, the more they benefit from you. I'm not saying don't do what you've been called to do, because that's what you need to do. But you don't have the capacity to really do what you've been called to do, because you're tired and exhausted from doing all the things that He asked you to release. So that's my conversation for you today. Transform your beliefs, because as long as you stay tied and tethered to faulty beliefs, you're not going to release the load. You're not going to establish the rhythms, and you're surely not going to surrender control. That's what I have for you this morning on this Figured Out Friday. Release the load, good people. Establish your rhythms, morning and evening. Surrender control. And in order for us to transform through truth, we got to uproot and unlearn these unhealthy beliefs that we have. Life will not fall apart if you step away. They guaranteed will figure it out. I was on my job doing good work for the good state. And I'll tell you this, when I retired June the 30th, July the 1st, they kept going. Understand, They will figure it out, whoever they is. I don't care if it's your civic organization, your church. That's one that get y'all. A lot of times y'all be so tethered to ministry. You're so tethered to the ministry that you forgot about your well-being. I'm talking about your household. Let me get off that because that's a conversation for another day. But I want y'all to understand your purpose requires you to be able to perform, not in a performative way, but in order for you to have capacity for your purpose, you get to decide what you're going to let go. You get to decide what part of this load you're going to release. And I invite you to establish healthy rhythms that are sustainable. What is sustainable for your life in this season that you're in? Because what worked for you last season may not work for you this season. And it is okay to pivot. It is okay to pause, reset, and then pivot. Trust and believe. I'm in that season myself, and I'm enjoying it. I invite you into this space. It is your girl, Coach Regina, with Doing Life Well Coaching and Consulting. Before I go, I want to remind you of this because we're talking about the REST framework. That closes out REST. I will have a special guest in studio next week. So make sure you pull up next Friday, 6 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. I have a very special guest that'll be coming in to have a conversation with you. The co-executive director of Black Women Do Heal, Cassie J. Weathersby, will be in the house talking about this whole rest and how you walk it out. Who's been living in that way for many, many years. So before you get out of here, I want to leave you with this. Rest is not something you earn after you finish everything. Rest is truly how you align as you figure things out. So instead of constantly going, it's time to pause and figure things out. So if something stood out to you, don't rush past it. Sit with it, journal it, write it down, talk about it, pray on it, practice it more importantly. I want you to put into practice. Releasing the load, establishing my rhythms, turning over to the Lord. This yours. Surrender that control. And then trust, transformation through trust, right? Transform through truth. The truth is we've adopted faulty beliefs. Work on our belief system. It ain't going to fall apart. It's not. So if this episode gave you language for what your body has been saying, that's a good thing. Share it with somebody else who could benefit from understanding the world is not going to fall apart when you step away. Right? And I would be remiss if I didn't offer you an opportunity to have further conversations. Some people have been going at this thing trying to figure it out for quite a while. And if you do not have an ecosystem, or if your ecosystem is not ecoing, an ecosystem is the people that you roll with. If they're not on this health journey and you need community, if you are in a place where you've been trying to figure this rest thing out, I'm not saying that I got it 100% together, but I'm further along than I was 3 months ago in understanding the benefits and why I need to rest. Let me tell y'all this, in case you have not been pulling up with me for the last several weeks. I learned that from my medical provider, the impact of lack of rest. So if you don't know, if you're not properly resting and giving your body the proper time to recover, there are long-term health implications and some short-term health implications. Lack of rest impacts your cardiovascular system. And I'm going to lean more into that next month because February is what? Heart Health Awareness Month. Cardiovascular disease, as we know, is the number one cause of death in the United States. So we're going to lean into that in the month of February. How does rest impact your cardiovascular system? You need to know that. You need to understand all this grinding will grave you. And that's what we don't want. That's what we don't want, my good people. It's your girl, Coach Regina. We're doing Life Well Coaching and Consulting. I pull up every Friday, 6 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time to address lifestyle, not just diet and exercise. Yes, I do have a signature program, a 90-day program, Diet Over DNA, a lifestyle curriculum program that I offer, and I work one-on-one and in group settings. Group cohort is starting in the first week of February. But I want you to understand it's not just diet and exercise, it is your rest rhythms, it is your social systems, the people who are around you who support what you're doing. If they don't value a rest mindset, then you're going to less likely to start to entertain these new things, these new practices. Check your ecosystem. I'm about to get out of here. Thank y'all so much for pulling up. Until next Friday, I invite you to take care of your whole self. Protect your peace and remember, doing life well starts with how you rest while you figure it out. Pull up with me next week. Again, if you have not, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, connect with me on LinkedIn, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you do. Like, comment, and share. It's your girl, Coach Regina. We're doing life well, coaching and consulting. I am about to be out. I hope that you have the most well day. Be different today. Do one thing different than you did on yesterday that supports your health and well-being, that supports you saying, I value my health. Behavior follows belief. What you say you value, let's demonstrate the behavior. Let me get out of here. Thank y'all so much. Share with somebody who could benefit from some rest perspectives. And if you or someone you know and or love need a coach, would like a coach to walk with you on this journey, message your girl or head over to my website at www.reginalacking.com, and I will love an opportunity to partner with you on your wellness journey. I'll talk to you all later.